Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back from spikedonline.com. I saw this when I was watching the Dark Horse podcast here on YouTube, and it's Brett Weinstein and his wife. I forget her name offhand, sorry. She's really cool as well. But they are liberals. But they are not the progressive leftist monsters. They're the old school liberals. Yes, we are conservative people, most people that watch this channel. But they are reasonable. And they don't have, their ideology does not overtake their brain and logic. They use a scientific method for scientific matters as well as social matters. And they're the old school liberals. It's what the founders had wanted. Two different points of view, expressing your view in a logical and rational way and trying to change hearts and minds. And they're hated by the progressives and the left. Does it automatically make it the enemy of my enemy's my friend? But no, this is the way things used to be. Make a long story short, I'll put the link to this article in the description. I guess they're friends with the guy here that wrote this article. Now, it's an incredibly well-written article. I mean, you're showing a picture there of Winston Churchill. If anybody helped save England from Nazi Germany, Churchill is, I think that's ruse. Anyway, I don't get too distracted here. I can't read this whole thing because it's quite long, because I want you to read it and I want you to let it sink in for yourself. For almost 2 decades, I've been attempting to understand the origins and drivers of the culture war that has now engulfed the West. And that's true. And I think he hits the nail on the head. And he's a very, very good writer. He writes this way more eloquently than I ever could. But he painted as a continuation of the age-old conflict between left and right. But that is misleading. If anything, today's cultural conflicts, be they arguments over statues or gender identity, coincide with the erosion of traditional ideological differences. Yeah. That's an incredibly well-written paragraph. Short and to the point. Indeed, we have capitalists today who no longer defend capitalism. Yeah. And an identity politics, obsessed left that is thoroughly hostile towards the working class, especially those who have white skin. True. The categories of left and right simply do not mean what they used to, and they certainly do not help us make sense of the culture war. I think Tim Pool said it once. I don't think it's left and right anymore. Conservative, liberal. It's cultist and non-cultist. One reason why the culture war is so difficult to understand is its main protagonists rarely lay out their cause systematically. There is no explicit philosophy or ideology of the culture war. Indeed, as I argue in my new book, 100 Years of Identity Crisis, Culture War Over Socialization, the culture war is driven by the ideology without a name. Yeah, it's rudderless. It is what I see out to explore the historical origins and main objectives of this nameless ideology. As I soon discovered, this ideology originated in the late 19th century in the most unlikely of places, namely the nursery. The first clash in the culture war took place over the question of how children should be raised and educated. It was this conflict over the socialization of young people over 100 years ago that unleashed the forces that have led to today's battles over identity and cultural values. Yeah, I mean, this guy is a very good writer and well said. Like I said, I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'll read this part, though, because Heather on the Dark Horse podcast picked it out, and I thought it was really, really something to consider. Toward the end of the 19th century, political movements modernizing capitalists and assorted intellectuals came to believe that a rapidly changing world required changes to the way in which young people were socialized. As they saw it, a new world needed a new man or new men. And it became truly modern. Young people had to be distanced from the tradition and values of the past. Old-fashioned moral norms had to be displaced by scientifically authorized values. Wow. I mean, he didn't waste one word. One reason why this process did not require an explicit ideological form was because it was promoted through the apparently neutral language of science. And I'm not going to read all of this, but basically what's happened is science isn't science anymore. And Heather had explained in the Dark Horse podcast briefly that scientists doing scientific experiments behind closed doors, telling no one the methodology reached, and how you came to the conclusion you came to, and only the conclusion only, not how you got there, is not science. And that's what's happening now. And this is an offshoot of what this gentleman is talking about from the early 20th century. But aspects of this outlook were also embraced by many other movements too, from European socialists and liberals to euthynetics. I consider CRT, critical race theory, very much on parallel with the old eugenics craze of the early 20th century. It was, and I used air quotes, you can't see them, mainstream science. It was taught in colleges. Professors had courses in eugenics. The founder of Planned Parenthood was a big believer in eugenics, as well as many non-white people, believe it or not. They all drew the conclusion that the most reliable way of changing culture and replacing traditional values with modern values was through changing the attitudes of young people. Now, I'm going to scroll through this slowly. I'm not going to be able to read it all. It's incredible. It's incredible how accurate this is and how this has been going on for a century plus. Far-right and fascist movements are also attracted to the myth of the new man. Fascists envision the new man as virile, physically hard, forceful, and committed. Adolf Hitler described him as slim and slender, quick like a greyhound, tough like leather, and hard like crump steel. The utopian vision of educating children to become a new man of the future is not confined to the radical far left or right ideologies. Similar ideas have been advocated by literal social democrats and eugenicists and progressives. The behavioral psychologist John Watson claimed that the key to creating a new man lay in the application of science. And there's the quote that he made. It's really amazing. Absolutely amazing. Today's new man, gender neutral, anti-sexist, and untainted by the heteronormative attitudes of the past, is merely the latest, most up-to-date version of an idea promoted for 100 years. Psychology has always been central to this project of socialization. In the 1920s, a leading American sociologist even called socialization mental conditioning. And that's exactly what this is. And this is an incredibly well-written article. Like I said, I don't make this video too long, so I'm just going to scroll through a lot of it, and you can stop it and read it. I suggest you go to the link that's in the description. Awareness raising, identity politics. It's tomato. It's something that's been done for a long, long time. They just changed the names. It's an incredibly well-written article. And usually I'm not big on praise, but this is really, really well written. And Heather was right to point it out. Not because she's friends with the author, it's because of the fact it is well written. And as we go through here, I'm just scrolling through, and it's so point on. It's so what's going on right now. But here's the weird part. It's not just going on right now. It's always been going on. Always. You know, I'll leave the last paragraph here. Today's social engineers may talk endlessly about raising awareness, but they seem painfully unaware of their own failings enthralled to the ideology without a name that they're not solving cultural conflicts, they are driving them. And like I said, this is an incredibly well-written article. I'm seriously considering getting the gentleman's book. Normally, I read historical nonfiction books, but this might be an exception. And it's key topics: identity politics, long reads politics. So I'm glad Heather pointed this out. It's really, really well written and timely, I might add. But the weird part is it's not timely and it is timely. It's timely that it's what's going on right now, but as he points out, this has always been going on. And now it's coming to a head, I think, at least for this generation. We'll see who's going to win this war. It's long and it's hard. And there's nothing really at stake besides the entire future of democracy and freedom. Other than that, who cares, right? Until next time, goodbye and good luck.